What's up, everybody? This is Josh here from Basement Level Magic, and it's about that time again where we get to go ahead and do some new cards, new mechanics, and new rules. So we're gonna get ready for Oath of the Gatewatch Pre-Release. Let's go ahead and jump in. First mechanic that we want to take a look at is called Cohort. Cohort is an ability word that seems like it's going to be used a lot in ally decks. The key to it is you need to tap your Cohort card and then tap an untapped ally creature that you control. With that, you're going to get a special ability. The first example is Munda's Vanguard, where you tap Munda's Vanguard, you tap another ally you control, say a Stonehaven Outfitter, and then you get +1/+1 counters on each creature that you control. This is huge in a limited setting. I feel like a lot of times in ally decks, I ended up running out of stuff to do on turn 5 and 6 when my opponent was playing much larger, better, stronger creatures. So if I didn't kill them early enough, I was having a tough time finishing it. So if you're going to be able to use this type of ability, I think this is going to give ally decks a fairly good late game, whereas before they were pretty tough to win with if you didn't have those specific really good finishers. One thing that you do want to make sure that you do with this is you need to play your Cohort Enabler on the first turn, and then if you have another ally, you play that the next turn. The great thing about that is you're going to be able to do it. You're going to be able to work your way around Summoning Sickness. If you had an ally on the board and you have Munda's Vanguard, you play Munda's Vanguard, you are not able to activate the Cohort ability. But if you play Munda's Vanguard and then your ally, you are actually able to tap that Summoning Sick creature even though it's Summoning Sick. So you're able to take advantage of the Cohort ability. Now, if this is at instant speed, it's going to be really strong. You're going to be able to use this as combat tricks during blocks, where you can set your blockers and then go ahead and tap your guys down, giving your whole team +1/+1 counters. You can stop damage from getting through. You may be able to just change the combat math. I think this is going to be a pretty important mechanic in the limited setting. The next mechanic to talk about is Support. Support is an ability with a number attached to it, Support 2 or Support 6. Depending on the number attached to it, it will tell you how many creatures you get to put 1/1 counters on. Now, a big thing to remember about this is it's not like Bolster, where you get to put all the 1/1 counters on a specific creature or one creature. You only get a 1/1 counter on up to 2 or 4 or 6 creatures. If you only have one other creature, you only get one 1/1 counter out of this ability. This ability it doesn't put a 1/1 counter on itself either. So if you play a Jiraga Auxiliary, which has a Support 2 ability, you don't get to put a 1/1 counter on the auxiliary. It only goes on the other creatures. That's an important thing to remember, and I think that'll definitely be something that comes up at pre-releases. It'll come up when you're playing your drafts, so big thing to remember. Another thing that you may want to look at doing is you can actually place counters on your opponent's creatures if you need to. This could be used in Limited if you want to turn on Smite the Monstrous, or in Constructed where you need that creature to have a higher toughness so that you can play a Valorous Stance on it. So I think this will be a pretty important thing. I don't know how much I'm going to base drafting around it, but it'll be very important more later game. To fully take advantage of this ability, you will want to run a high creature count to ensure the maximum use of this ability. You want to make sure that you're getting as many counters as the support ability allows. Alright, the new mechanic is Surge, and no, it's not the soda. Although I hear that Surge is back, by the way. Surge states, you may cast this spell for its Surge cost if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn. This is going to be a big thing with Two-Headed Giant, which a lot of people will probably play for their pre-release. I know I've done two Two-Headed Giant ones over the past year, and they're a lot of fun. But this Surge ability is really going to make it important, I think. Many times the Surge cost will just be a slightly cheaper converted mana cost, but it'll also provide you with a distinct advantage if you're able to use a spell for its Surge cost. So on a card like Crush of Tentacles, which is a mythic, so it's not like you're going to see this all the time, But if you're able to play Crush of Tentacles, which states return all non-land permanents to their owner's hand, the key is if you use the Surge cost, you actually get to put a 8/8 blue octopus creature token onto the battlefield. So not only do you get to play the card for cheaper, but you also get to have an 8/8, which is awesome. So that's something to definitely watch. Something like Overwhelming Denial, which has a Surge cost which is 2 mana less to play, is still very good. It's still great to be able to do that. This is probably going to be an incidental skill in limited play. You're not going to be building a ton of decks where you're playing all these cheap spells so that you can take advantage of the Surge cost. It'll just be, oh sweet, I can play this for cheaper this time, or I get to play Crush of Tentacles and I get an 8/8. Although that card I think I would try to build around, or I'd try to hold off playing a spell so that I could take advantage of it. Now, it does not matter if the previous spell was countered or even still on the stack. You still get to use the Surge cost to play your card. So if you play a card, somebody is countering your spell, and then you play Overwhelming Denial, you get to do it for the Surge costs, even though your card is still on the stack, or even though it is being countered. You do get to take advantage of that. So that's definitely something to watch for. Don't just skip on through your turn and not take advantage of it. All right, probably the biggest thing that you're going to have to look for here in Oath of the Gatewatch is the new mana symbol. It is this diamond that you can see on the Waste card up in the upper right-hand corner, as well as on Kozilek the Great Distortion. You can see there's the new mana symbol next to him. So he's got 8 generic mana, and then he's got 2 colorless mana. So they are calling these wastes. It'll be a new basic land type, and it's different from generic mana. Essentially, it's like a 6th color of mana. As you look at Kozilek, you've got the diamond symbol there for 2 of the mana symbols, and then you've got 8 generic. So this is going to be a big game changer, and this is one thing that we'll want to focus on quite a bit. These spells will require you to use colorless mana specifically when casting a spell or activating an ability. No, you don't need to have 2 wastes in your deck to be able to cast it, a card like Kozilek, but you do have to have specifically colorless mana to cast it. So that's something we need to keep a close eye on. Wastes in limited. Paying for spells requiring for colorless mana in limited will be slightly more complicated than prior. You will need to draft your colorless mana sources if you want to play these cards in your deck, or have them in your sealed pool. You cannot add them to your deck after the draft as you would with other basic land types. Say if you want 8 plains and 8 mountains, you could go grab that after the draft. But with this, you need to come out of your draft or come out of your sealed pool with your sources. Now you can pick these up at the common spot, at the rare spot, uncommon, whatever. There's even a mythic one called Mirror Pool. If you can get that one, pick it up. I'm telling you. There's my word of advice already. But that's the key. You need to be able to come out of your pool with ways to cast these spells. Otherwise, don't take Kozilek, or take Kozilek because you want to sell it or keep it for your own private use, but you're not going to be able to play it if you don't have a colorless mana source. So you're going to want to prioritize getting this colorless mana. Now, a helpful way to get there in this limited format is going to be, you don't have to use only the new lands to create this mana. You've got cards like Kozilek's Channeler, which creates 2 colorless mana. And you can also now play Scion tokens, which will be a source of mana fixing in your decks that need colorless mana. So now suddenly that insignificant 1/1 Scion token is a source of mana fixing rather than just mana ramp. Some activated abilities will require colorless mana to activate, so even if not playing spells that require colorless mana in the casting cost, you may still look to find a way to get colorless mana in your decks. A card like Eldrazi Displacer, which is a really strong card, and it looks like it's going to be very good, but if you don't have a way to use the activated ability, it's just a 3/3 for 3. So definitely something you need to watch out for. As far as constructed is concerned, you may want to dust off those pain lands, because that's going to be a real easy way for you to add colorless mana. So be able to definitely keep an eye out for that. Alright, what do you guys think about the new mechanics and mana symbol? Which one's your favorite? Leave some comments below. What do you think is going to have the biggest impact on limited play, and will any of these actually affect Eternal formats? I'd like to thank you all for watching. This is Joshua with Basement Level Magic. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you again next time. Later.